The laugh came sharp like glass. And the fitting room curtain hadn't even fully opened. A young woman, maybe 19, stood there frozen in a soft blue cocktail dress, the tag still dangling from her back. Her reflection trembled in the boutique mirror, not because of the dress, but because of the voice behind her. "That's not for people like you," the saleswoman had said. The sentence lingered in the air longer than it should have. The girl blinked. "I'm sorry." The saleswoman, blonde and bored, leaned casually against a nearby rack of evening wear, flipping a gold bracelet on her wrist. "I said, we don't usually let people try on the limited collection unless they're seriously buying. And let's be honest," she looked her up and down, "you're not." The girl stepped out of the fitting room slowly, arms folded over the front of the dress, cheeks burning. Her name was Elena. She worked 2 jobs. This dress was for her sister's wedding. She'd saved for it. She'd asked 3 times before someone finally let her try it on. And now this, behind her, 2 other employees smirked from the counter, half watching, half scrolling. Near the back of the boutique, a man stood quietly by a wall of muted trench coats. He didn't say a word, didn't even move, just observed. A dark beanie, simple black jacket, canvas sneakers. He looked like someone browsing without buying. Until you saw his eyes. They weren't judging. They were memorizing. Keanu Reeves didn't come to shop. He came because a friend had told him this boutique was becoming exclusive in the worst way. That people were being treated not by who they were, but by how expensive they looked. And now, as he watched Elena shrink under the weight of mockery, he knew his friend was right. But Keanu wasn't going to raise his voice. He didn't need to, because people always revealed who they were. All he had to do was wait. Elena stood frozen in the dress, fingers clutching the fabric just above her ribs, like holding herself together might make her smaller, less visible. The saleswoman, Tricia, rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. "Sweetheart," she said, loud enough for the whole boutique to hear, "this isn't a thrift shop. If you can't afford it, don't wrinkle it." Someone snickered. A young man in designer sunglasses pretended to cough over his laughter. One of the other employees, a tall guy with gelled hair and the name tag Devin, leaned on the register and smirked. Elena's voice cracked. "I just want to see how it fit." "You saw," Tricia said, smiling. "It fits like a fantasy." Another wave of laughter. The boutique was silent otherwise. Too clean, too expensive. The kind of place where insecurity had a scent, and it lingered longer than the perfume. Elena looked at the mirror again. Her reflection didn't look embarrassed. It looked tired. She turned, stepping carefully toward the fitting room. "I'll change." But Tricia took a step forward, blocking her path slightly. "Actually," she said, "I'll take that from you. Can't risk you accidentally damaging it." She reached for the dress, and that's when a calm voice broke the tension. "Actually," she should finish trying on. Heads turned. Keanu Reeves had taken a step forward. No one recognized him at first. Not without the lights, not without the fanfare. Just a quiet man with kind eyes and a voice that didn't raise, even when everything else felt loud. Tricia blinked. "Excuse me." Keanu gestured to Elena, his tone even. "You interrupted her. Let her decide when she's finished." Tricia scoffed. "And who are you, her lawyer?" Keanu smiled. "Just someone who knows what respect looks like." Elena stood still, unsure what surprised her more, the fact that someone stepped in or that it was him. She didn't know who he was. But in that moment, it didn't matter, because for the first time in 10 minutes, someone stood beside her, and the power shifted, just a little. Tricia blinked at the man now standing between her and the fitting room. Her painted smile twitched. "This is a private boutique," she said tightly, shifting her stance to block Elena again. "We reserve the right to serve customers who meet our standards." Keanu tilted his head, his voice quiet, measured. "Whose standards?" "Yours." A beat passed. Then Devin, still leaning at the counter, chimed in without lifting his eyes from his phone. "Dude, relax." She just didn't want the dress stretched out. Keanu looked over. Did it look like she was stretching it? His voice wasn't sharp, but it landed like weight on glass. Devin hesitated, eyes flicking up. Something in Keanu's gaze pulled his sarcasm right out of him. Trisha exhaled dramatically. "Look, sir, I don't know who you think you are, but—" A soft voice interrupted. "I'll take the dress." Elena's voice. Steady this time. A little louder. Trisha turned, surprised. "What?" Elena looked straight ahead, no longer holding her arms over her stomach. "I said I'll take it. You can't possibly afford." Keanu gently reached into his jacket and took out a black wallet. He handed over a black Amex card. Without looking away from Trisha, he said, "Then don't ring it up under her name." The boutique fell absolutely silent. Even the young man in sunglasses lowered them slightly. Trisha didn't move, but her smile, it was gone. She took the card. Devin finally stood up straight. The other employees, still pretending to fold scarves, had stopped moving completely. Elena looked at Keanu, wide-eyed. "You don't have to." "I know," he said quietly, "but you deserve to be seen, not judged." She stepped back into the fitting room, this time on her own, and for the first time, she stood tall inside it. Behind the curtain, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The boutique was still quiet. Trisha disappeared behind the counter with a black card, her hands suddenly more careful, her expression tighter. She was used to controlling the room, but the room didn't seem to respond to her anymore. Devin stood awkwardly near the register, phone now face down. He stared at Keanu, squinting, tilting his head slightly. "Wait," he muttered under his breath. "Is that—" The young man in sunglasses, now holding them in one hand, whispered his girlfriend, "Yo, that's Keanu Reeves." She turned, gasped, "Oh my God, that is Keanu Reeves." It spread fast, faster than gossip. But Keanu didn't move. He stood by the fitting room curtain, still and quiet, like a bodyguard of dignity itself. Not for his sake, for hers. Elena, behind the curtain, Elena stared at herself. Same dress, same body, but different eyes. She smoothed the fabric over her sides and took a slow breath. No laughter, no judgment, just her. And for the first time since entering the store, the dress felt like hers, too. Trisha returned to the front, card still in hand, her tone suddenly sugary sweet. "Mr. Reeves," she said, like she'd always known. "If we'd realized who you were, we would've—" He cut her off, not with words, just with a look that said, "It shouldn't take celebrity for you to treat people well." And she understood, because that look was heavier than shame. It was disappointment, and it was earned. Devin cleared his throat. We can have that dress tailored, no charge. Complimentary fitting." Keanu nodded once. "Ask her. It's hers now." They both turned toward the fitting room, where the curtain slowly opened, and Elena stepped out. Same girl, new posture, and the boutique, for once, looked at her properly. Elena stepped into the center of the boutique. Same dress, same lighting, but no longer shrinking under it. She didn't fidget. She didn't look at the price tag. She didn't apologize for her presence. And for once, no one laughed. Even Trisha said nothing, because the room had changed. Not physically, but morally. And at the heart of it stood Keanu. Still, quiet, unshaken. Trisha forced a smile, holding the receipt. If she'd like to schedule a fitting. Keanu turned to Elena. "You want it tailored?" Elena hesitated, then shook her head. "No," she said. "It's perfect as it is." Her voice was soft, but it traveled farther than Trisha's ever had. Keanu nodded, accepting her answer like it was the only one that mattered. Then he looked back at Trisha. "I came in to observe," he said calmly, "not to be recognized. But what I saw tells me everything about this place." Trisha's smile faltered. "Sir, if there was a misunderstanding." "There wasn't." He stepped forward slightly, not to intimidate, but to anchor the moment. "A dress shouldn't cost this much dignity." Devin looked away. One of the younger salesgirls behind the scarf counter turned red. Trisha stood frozen, receipt still in hand. Keanu turned to Elena again. "You ready?" She blinked, To leave? To walk out of here, he said gently. Exactly as you are, but seen. She smiled. She glowed. And as the two of them walked toward the door, Elena carrying the dress bag over her arm, no one stopped them. No one dared. Because everyone knew the most expensive thing in the boutique was a lesson they'd just been given for free. The city hadn't changed. Same uneven sidewalks. Same rush hour honking. Same gray blur of commuters moving too fast to notice anything that didn't glitter. But Elena, she walked differently now, dress bag in hand, stepped slower, shoulders straighter, like she wasn't afraid of being seen anymore, like she had a right to take up space. And Keanu? He walked beside her, hoodie pulled up, blending in again like he'd never stood in the center of a boutique and silenced a room without raising his voice. I don't know what to say, Elena said finally. You don't need to, Keanu replied. You already said it, when you stood up for yourself. She looked at him, hesitant. You paid for the dress. You didn't have to. I didn't, Keanu said with a slight smile. I wanted to. But why? She asked. I mean, you don't even know me. Keanu looked ahead. I didn't need to know you to know that what they did was wrong. And sometimes, he paused, you just step in, not because you're supposed to, because you can. They stopped at a crosswalk. Elena glanced down at the bag in her hand. It's funny, she said. All I wanted was to feel good in it. Now, I feel good in me. Keanu smiled, his eyes kind but steady. That's the only thing that ever matters. The light changed. He stepped back onto the sidewalk and nodded. This is me. You don't want anything? She asked. A photo? A thank you post or something? He laughed, not loudly, just warmly. No. Then, after a beat, just wear the dress like it belongs to you. That's enough. And then he was gone, blended back into the flow of the city, like mist dissolving into light. The church was small, with ivy creeping along the old stone walls and laughter spilling out onto the lawn. Elena stood just outside the reception hall, clutching a bouquet of fresh tulips and watching her sister twirl on the dance floor with her new husband. She hadn't cried at the ceremony, not because she wasn't moved, but because for the first time in a long time she felt whole. The blue dress hugged her shoulders gently, its lines graceful and simple. It didn't sparkle, didn't shout, but it fit, not just her body, her journey. Inside, someone tapped her shoulder. Elena, she turned, and her heart stopped. Trisha, hair done up now, makeup softer, but unmistakably the same woman who had mocked her in the boutique just days ago. Hey, Trisha said quickly, hands raised. Wait, I'm not here to ruin anything. Elena blinked. You know someone here? My cousin the groom, Trisha said, cheeks flushed. Small world. They stood in an awkward silence. The music carried on behind them, but the moment between them felt like its own bubble. Trisha exhaled slowly. I wanted to say, I saw the security footage. Elena stayed quiet. I mean, everyone saw it, Trisha admitted. It made its way up to corporate. And we had a meeting, a real one, about how we treat people. Elena tilted her head, wary. Because of Keanu? Trisha nodded. And because of you. She hesitated, then added, you didn't break down. You didn't fight back. You just stood there and made us look at ourselves. And I hated you for it. Elena blinked. Thanks. No, I mean, Trisha sighed. I hated that you reminded me what it feels like to be powerless. I'd forgotten. I got too comfortable. Elena looked her in the eye. And now, I'm not comfortable anymore, Trisha said quietly. And maybe that's a good thing. They stood for a moment longer. Then Trisha gave a nod, small, almost embarrassed, and stepped back into the reception hall, disappearing into the music. Elena turned back to the open sky. A breeze caught the hem of her dress, and she let it move her, just a little, like a flag that no longer needed to be folded. 3 days after the wedding, Elena found it waiting in her mailbox, a plain cream envelope. No stamp, no return address, just her name, handwritten, not by someone trying to impress, but someone who meant it. She sat at the small kitchen table, fingers running over the scene before she opened it. Inside, there was no letter, just a folded sheet of thick matte paper. And in the center, one sentence, typed, not printed. Never forget what you look like when you finally believe you belonged. Below it, neatly clipped to the page, was a photograph. It was her, in the boutique, wearing the dress, caught mid-step as she emerged from the fitting room, chin lifted, the dress falling perfectly into place. Captured in a single second where she wasn't trying to prove anything. She looked free, and standing just behind her in the corner of the frame, barely in focus, hands in his pockets, was Keanu Reeves. She stared at the photo for a long time. Then she turned it over. On the back, a handwritten message in the same neat script. You didn't need my name to find your strength. You already had it. You just needed someone to see it. No signature. But she didn't need one. That night, she pinned the photo to her mirror, not because of who was in it with her, but because of the look on her own face, a look she planned to keep. The boutique looked exactly the same. Polished floors, mannequins standing stiff in $1,000 poses, the same faint scent of jasmine and ambition, but the person walking in wasn't the same girl who had once been told, "That's not for people like you." Elena entered with steady steps, the soft tap of her heels echoing across the boutique silence. She wasn't holding a receipt or asking permission. She wasn't here to buy. She was here to speak. A new woman stood behind the counter now. Younger, gentler posture. She smiled right away. "Hi there. Looking for anything in particular?" Elena shook her head. "Actually, I have an appointment with your manager." "Oh, yes. One SEC, she's expecting you." The woman disappeared to back, and Elena stood there quietly, scanning the racks. And then Tricia appeared, not in heels this time, in flats. No bold red lipstick, just a neutral blouse and a clipboard clutched a little too tightly. She stopped when she saw Elena. "Elena," she said softly. "You came." Elena nodded once. "You invited me." Tricia took a breath. "I did." They stepped into a side office, glass walls, minimalist furniture. Elena took a seat. "I wanted to thank you," Tricia began, "and also ask something." Elena tilted her head. "We've been redoing our hiring practices," Tricia said. "Retraining. Corporate was, let's say, deeply interested in what happened here. And one of the things I want, is a new kind of presence on the floor." Elena blinked. "Like a consultant? Like a mentor?" Tricia said. "To train new hires. To make sure we never treat anyone like we treated you." A long pause. "I know it's a big ask, and I wouldn't blame you if you walked out right now. But I thought maybe it would mean something to have someone who understands what it's like on the other side." Elena looked around. Same boutique, same mirrors. But now, her reflection sat taller. She smiled. "I won't sell shame," she said simply. Tricia shook her head. "That's exactly why we need you." 2 weeks into her new role, Elena had learned something surprising. The boutique wasn't broken. It just forgot how to see. The new hires listened. The old ones adjusted, some slower than others, but they tried. And Tricia, to her credit, had stepped off her pedestal and into the work. Elena stood at the front of the boutique one afternoon, walking a younger stylist through dress fittings for customers of different body types. She was mid-sentence when the front door chimed. A man walked in, hoodie up, sunglasses on, jeans clean but plain. The staff didn't flinch, didn't frown, didn't measure his worth. Instead, a young associate walked up and greeted him like anyone else. "Hi there, welcome in." He nodded politely and wandered toward the blazers. Elena froze. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and then a smile crept in. She approached slowly, watching him flip through the jackets with calm precision. "Looking for anything specific?" she asked, her voice light. He turned, removed the sunglasses, and smiled. "Keanu, same kind eyes, same calm energy, same quiet truth just under the surface." "Elena," he said, "place looks different." "It sees better now," she replied. They both stood in silence for a moment, surrounded by a room that no longer held shame in its air. I heard you took the job, he said. She chuckled. I heard you made sure they offered it. He shrugged. Maybe. I never got to say thank you, Elena added, her voice softer now. Keanu looked at her, then the boutique. Then don't, he said. Just keep doing exactly what you're doing. He turned to go, but paused. Then, almost as an afterthought, pulled something from his pocket. It was a small folded card. He handed it to her. Inside was a quote, printed on plain white paper. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one teaching everyone how to listen. Unknown. No name. No signature. Just the kind of message you leave behind when you've already said enough. Late afternoon sunlight filtered through boutique windows, casting golden streaks across the racks. It was quiet, that sweet lull between lunch and evening, when the store breathed a little slower. Elena stood near the center display, straightening a hemline when she heard it. Is there someone who actually knows what they're doing here? The tone was sharp, entitled, and familiar. She turned to see a woman in her early 50s, designer heels, oversized sunglasses pushed up like a tiara, and a purse that screamed status before style. Elena approached calmly. Can I help you? The woman looked her up and down. No offense, honey, but I'm not here for fashion advice from the cashier. Elena smiled gently. I'm actually the floor lead today. The woman raised a brow. You're kidding. Nope. The woman sighed and turned to the rack. I'm looking for something that doesn't make me look like I've given up. You know what I mean? Elena didn't flinch. I think I do. Everything's either for teenagers or grandmothers, the woman continued, voice rising. And your girl over there just tried to sell me a size 12. I haven't been a 12 since college. Elena stayed composed. Would you like me to pull a few pieces? She asked. The woman shrugged, still half distracted. Whatever. Just nothing frumpy. Elena walked to the back, selecting 3 dresses. She paused for a moment, holding one in her hands. She knew what was happening here. The dismissal, the projection, the fragile ego clinging to control. She'd been on the other side of this exact gaze. Now she had a choice. 10 minutes later, the woman stepped out of the fitting room in a soft emerald dress. Elegant, simple, and unapologetically fitted. She turned to the mirror, ready to critique, and then paused. Her hand landed slowly on her hip. Actually, she whispered, surprised, I don't hate it. Elena stood nearby, hands gently clasped. It's not about the size, she said. It's about how you stand in it. The woman looked at her through the mirror, and for a flicker of a second, the armor cracked. Thank you, she said quietly. I didn't think I'd hear that today. Elena just nodded. You deserve to. And for the first time since she walked in, the woman smiled. Not to be seen, but to feel seen. The boutique was empty. Lights low, racks perfectly aligned. Hangers still. The hum of the closing hour whispered to the vents as Elena locked the register and turned the final page on the day. She walked the floor alone, running a hand across the last rack. Not to check inventory, but out of habit, a kind of closing prayer. She turned off the last light and headed toward the glass front doors. And that's when she saw it, a small piece of paper, taped from the outside, gently folded in half. Nothing flashy, just white printer paper, cut unevenly. The tape was peeling at one corner. She opened the door and peeled it off. Inside, a single sentence typed in the middle. You didn't fix the world today, but you fixed someone's. No name, no logo, just that. She smiled, one of those quiet, chest-deep smiles that stay long after they fade. She turned the key in the lock, lights blinking off behind her, and stepped into the night. Her reflection lingered in the glass door, and for a moment, she saw both versions of herself. The girl who was once told, that's not for people like you, and the woman who now made sure. No one else ever heard that again. Somewhere far away, someone else was stepping into a fitting room for the first time. And this time, someone like Elena would be waiting, ready to say, take your time. You belong here. Thanks for watching. What would you have done in Elena's shoes? Have you ever had someone stand up for you quietly, when it mattered most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. You never know who's reading and who needs to hear them. Speech Balloon. Subscribe for more stories like this.